it's time for my top 10 books of the year. This is going to be really, really fun because I have 10 books here that are controversial. On my top 2, I couldn't pick a number 1, and I finally ended up deciding on one, so this should be exciting, and hopefully you'll stay around to see what number 1 is. Alright, so pick 10 books I read this year, not that came out, obviously. I don't think I've even read 5 that came out this year, but that's really a bummer, but I'm still going to do my top 10 that I read this year. And I got some really good books on this, so keep tuned in. Number 10, it will have to go to The Martian by Andy Weir. This is a really good science fiction book. I read this in January of 2021, obviously, and I really loved it. It was one of those books where I loved it, and then I didn't realize how much I really loved it until after I finished it, and I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, I really love this book. It's a loner story, and then you get the perspective of trying to save the loner. A lot of science fiction, a lot of science, a lot of hardcore science. There was a lot. I was reading a lot of far-fetched science fiction, and reading this legit science fiction was really awesome to see all the science and everything going on here. I really loved it so much, and I enjoyed it. It's my number 10 of the year this year, and I really loved it. And it's like first place. It's like, this is such a great sci-fi book, but this is only number 10, so tells you what a great reading year I had, because that's number 10, and that's pretty obvious. Alright, number 4 was God Emperor. Yeah, this is obviously I wouldn't put the first Dune because it's a reread. I reread it this year, not legit read, but I first time read God Emperor this year. And God Emperor of Dune really blew me away because I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. And you're like, what? Like, I didn't like this book. Why are you putting it at number 9 of this year? And this was because I really didn't have expectations for it. I didn't love Children of Dune, unlike a lot of you guys. I wasn't a big fan of Children of Dune. But this book came in, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll read it. And it threw a different take of the Dune world. It was totally different. I really love how, I love the fact, the boldness of just throwing it out there, completely changing the world, skipping millennia. And it really worked out. I love the character of Leto, and what they did was smart, but also, genius. It's such a philosophical book. And you make you think so much about, the morals of what this person is doing. And I really loved it. It was such a good continuation of the Dune, and this is my favorite since the original Dune. Obviously not as good as the original Dune, but it was still very excellent. I loved God Emperor of Dune. I still need to read the last 2, Heretics and Chapter House. I'll get to in 2022, and hopefully we're praying will be on my top 10 of next year. Alright, next is Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. Now, this is the first book in a trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy, and this is a Legends trilogy. I can't get over what good of a book this is. This is truly amazing. I can't believe that really this is what they're putting out, because it's truly excellent in quality. I really loved it. It's a continuation. It's not canon, but it is a continuation of the original series. This is the greatest sequels I've ever this is the sequels that happened that are not really real, but this is the perfect continuation, and I have to put it on my top 10 because I really love, especially this first one. So much nostalgia played into this, and it's so much excellent writing. It's nostalgia mixed with excellent writing, and it's really military fantasy. It's a great introduction to military fantasy, because fans of Star Wars will love this book, obviously. And this is also military sci-fi is what I meant. Military sci-fi is also an introduction to that. So I definitely recommend you reading it. I have not recommended a book more recently than Heir to the Empire, so definitely go read it. It's such a great introduction to military sci-fi, and it's such a great book. I love it. It's such a great Star Wars continuation. Even though it's not real, I do love it a lot. At number 6 on the list, we have Joe Abercrombie. He is back on the list, obviously. I'm super excited for Joe Abercrombie. I read Best Served Cold up to Best Served Cold this year, from Beta Stuff to Best Served Cold, And my favorite was Last Argument of Kings. I know a lot of people don't love Last Argument of Kings, but this definitely has got to be my favorite in the trilogy. And it's number 6 of the year, which is kind of crazy. Like, it was really high for me because it showed how great Joe Abercrombie is as an author. And it just really, like, it shows a lot of brutally honest stuff. But the good news is, this is only, what I hear it is, only gets better from here with the First Law. And that's really, like, really encouraging because apparently Wisdom of Crowds is the best First Law book ever. And that just came out last year, or this year actually. And I'm hopefully can get caught up on that. Really, like, because if this is number 6 on my list and the Wisdom of Crowds is so much better, I can't wait, and I can't wait to see what Joe Abercrombie does, because this is grimdark to its best, and I'm super, super happy to have read this trilogy this year, and I can't wait to read more. Next, we have John Gwynne, the author of Shadow of the Gods, and this is number 5. Come to think about it, I just really loved this book. I loved the influences of this book. I love Norse mythology, and I love how it influenced this. It's not making rules of Norse mythology like Riordan does. This is really enveloping it within the world, and it's just done really, really well. If I do say so myself, this is really beautiful because it's like a taste. It's like a little taste of Norse mythology. You get the vibes, you get the feelings. I love the characters. I love it how it's split POVs really evenly, perfectly, and it's like written a lot better. I read Malice, and that's all that I've read by John Gwynne. And this one's written much better. You can tell he's a way more experienced author reading Shadow of the Gods. And I'm really happy that this has happened. And I can't wait for Hunger of the Gods that comes out next year. I'll definitely be reading that. I buddy read this with the e-reader. Did not regret it. I love this book. And I just, like, love how it does, like, how he improves as an author. Seeing that is really good. And I'm glad I can put this on my, like, top 5. Or no, this is number 6, actually. Pause, wait, I need to do math here. That's number 6. Yeah, that's number 6 on the list. So, Shadow of the Gods, number 6 on the list. And I'm super, super happy to have read it this year. Number 5 is another science fiction book. I read it in Sci-Fi September. It's Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I loved this book. This is some hard sci-fi and not as good as Doom, but it's really up there. I really love it a lot. It basically follows 7 main characters, and it's their backstory. It's like you read the backstory on all of them, and the backstories are really good. Some were obviously better than others, but the majority of them were fantastic, and you get to read these backstories, and this is not even in the main plot yet. The main plot calls in Fall of Hyperion, which I should be reading next month, hopefully. But, like, the main plot, like, I can't wait for it. It was just so interesting. It was so well done, and I can't not put it on my top 5 because it's really excellent. It's just such a great book. And it's just like the characters were epic. It was mysterious. It was like pretty brutal. It was pretty grimdark at some points. Also very confusing. It was kind of everything. It was one of the most well balanced books I've ever read because it's just so like again theological. You get to think about it. It really contemplates on religion, military, and stuff like that. It contemplates on stuff. It's action packed. There's not a shortage of action, and the characters are great too. So I don't know what's wrong with this book, and that's why I put it on the list just because of like I can't really find anything that it's lacking in. So that's why it's on this list. And I really love it, and definitely recommend you reading Hyperion. So I limited myself to like putting only one book a series on here, so it's not too repetitive. And the next comes the Stormlight Archive. I didn't read Way of Kings. I read Way of Kings in 2020, and this is my favorite Stormlight book I read in 2021. And I really, really enjoyed Words of Radiance. It's just like amazing. Words of Radiance is purely genius. It's the most highest rated book on Goodreads actually. And that tells you something. It really develops these characters from where they put them in Way of Kings. And see, The Way of Kings is a perfectly crafted book. Way of Kings, I was like, oh, this is such a beautiful book. And then once I read this, I'm like, it's like, this series is amazing because it really has another perfect and near perfect installment. And it really, really excites me for what came next. And this is definitely got to be out. Definitely got to love the first half of the Stormlight more than the second half right now. But all of them is really, really great. I love Words of Radiance as a whole. I love what it did to Kaladin as a character, and especially Shallan. This made Shallan one of my favorite characters. So that's really great. So Words of Radiance, definitely on my list. Definitely go check it out if you haven't read it, the Stormlight Archive. Alright, next is the Wheel of Time. And to think about it, Knife of Dreams is my favorite Wheel of Time book. And that's crazy to say. I am almost done with the Memory of Light right now, but I gotta say, Knife of Dreams is the best all-around book. I'm so glad this was Robert Jordan's last book he wrote in the Wheel of Time. And it's gotta be my favorite. I mean, some of them are really great, but this is the best all-around book. Some of them have really great endings. Some of them really great beginnings. Some of them have really great pose. But whenever I think about it, this is the best all-around book. There's action all around, and it does a lot for my favorite characters. If you didn't know, this is the 11th book in the Wheel of Time, and if you don't know, I've been talking about it a lot recently. And I don't want to talk about it too much because you've heard it. I have a 20-minute review on my channel for this, if you want to go check it out. But it's really, really great. I loved Knife of Dreams, and yeah, again, only one per series, so this is just my favorite, and I put it up here. And definitely definitely, if you have not read Wheel of Time, do yourself a favor, read it. I really loved all of the books, but Knife of Dreams is beautiful. I'm glad Robert Jordan kicked off with this. Such a great book. Alright, if you've been following my channel, you know these next two books are very hard for me to choose. And I'm going to tell you, number one is between Project Hail Mary and Raging Dragons. These are my favorite two individual reads of the year. These are just like the best individual books of the year. And these are my two, and I will tell you what is number one and what is number two, but I just want you to know these are the two books that are so perfect. I love both of them. It's really nitpicking right now to pick my favorite one, but both of them were excellent to its core. So I'm going to give you like number one right now. Are you ready? No, number two, actually. I'm going to give you number two right now. It is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I'm sorry, this is number two. I really wanted it to be number one. In any other year, it would be number one. Except last year, I read my favorite book of all time, obviously. And this year, I read this other book. But Project Hail Mary was so perfect. It's hard to talk about this book without spoiling it. But, it's beautiful. I had, gripes over it. It had first person, and it made me like first person a lot more. It changed my mind about things. It was perfectly scientifically balanced. It was, sciencey, you gotta get home. It's a loner story to its core, but it has an amazing twist. It's sciencey, but also has something way out there, which shocks you, turns you around. It's a thriller, and it's really, really hard It's really, really hard to take your eyes off this book. And once you start reading it, you can't stop reading it. And I really love it for that. It's just such a thriller. It's so enjoyable. Wow, just so, you could never predict where this book is going. And it really has a satisfying ending. And again, I really love Project Hail Mary. I could rave about it a little more, but I want to keep it shorter. And I have a review for it. If you want to go check it out, I have reviews for all of these books. And I'll link them in the description. So, yeah, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, number two. Definitely recommend. I'm glad Andy Weir, this is his newest book. It's a new release, actually. And I love this so much. It's definitely my favorite new release of the year, but definitely it can't be my first favorite because of Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This book, again, it's very addictive, and it's just so original and addictive and beautiful, and again, I read this when I was in camp, and I couldn't do anything but read this book. What I love about this book is the emotions it gets out of me. It is African-inspired fantasy, and it's a rage revenge, and I love these because it has great conflict. There's consequences for our characters' actions. There's, perfect action. It's fantasy, but it's also very grimdark and honest. It's a mix of First Law and Stormlight. Really the perfect mix. Honestly, you can't get better than that. I love our main character, Tao. And I love all the surrounding characters. And I love, just the conflict. I love, the dragons, obviously. And I love the magic system. There's nothing, better from this indie author. And I can't wait for Lord of Demons coming out. I think this year. Or next year, 2022 or 2023. I'm not sure. I'll check. It'll be right here. But Lord of Demons is going to come out. And I'm so excited because Fires of Vengeance was almost as good. The next book I just didn't include because I don't want to a series to make it boring. But this book was absolutely brilliant. I love this book. It's a new favorite of all time, and I definitely raved about it quite a bit. And Raging Dragons is the perfect book. It's so entertaining, and I can recommend this to a lot of people. So yeah, this is number 1 of like this year, and it's Raging Dragon. It was number 1 for the halfway point of the year, and it is number 1 for the whole year. So I can't talk about this enough. I've talked about it in any of these books. I'm gonna have links to my reviews for them because I know I didn't get you all my reviews, but I also want to keep it short so you guys know what's my top 10 real quick. So if any of these books interest you, reviews down in the description. Go check them out, give them a like, and hit subscribe. We're at 205 subscribers. Thank you guys for letting me hit 200. That means the world to me. And yeah, hope you guys have a great 2022, and see you guys in the next video. Peace.